So I've been holding on to this for quite a while now, and I've been saying that I will get this video up eventually, but here it is. And this is my build diary of this. So it may look familiar to most of you in the UK, but for those who don't know, this is a replica of the BBC Two car that appeared in BBC Two's ident package from between 1991 and 2001. I believe it first appeared, it was either 1993 or 1994, and then it briefly returned in the mid-2010s, following a brief showcase on the 50-year anniversary celebration, and following that it came back briefly before moving on to the curve. And this is kind of something I've been wanting to pull off for quite a while, because no one else seems to have ever done it, and I kind of wanted to be the first person to do it. And overall, I'm happy with the results so far, but there are a few driving issues I'm having with it. I'll explain later on further into the video. But for now, let's go all the way back to the beginning in terms of how I built this replica of the BBC Two car. So this is where it all began. This is the original larger size, which was being printed on my Solvo SV06 Plus. Now, to give context to the side, that bed space is 300 by 300 millimeters, so it was going to be fairly big. However, when it came out, the nozzle just suddenly clogged. I think it might have had something to do with the temperature, so I gave it another try with different temperature settings, and just when I thought it was going to go to plan, it kind of fell at the last hurdle, as you can see here. I have no idea what happened there. The filament didn't even snag on anything, so I wasn't so sure. So I wasn't going to risk it anymore, and I decided to take it back to the slicer and scale it down to print on my Elegoo Neptune 4 Pro. So here is the first attempt, and here is the printer printing off the first layer. Now, at first I thought it was a perfect print, but then if you look at the other side, you can see that there has been a layer shift, and given that it's right where the motor holds and where the wheels would come out of, it's just completely unusable. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because here were the failed prints. God knows what I'm going to do with that lot, but I took it, I changed some settings on the printer, and when I was hoping that this was going to be the perfect print, and by some miracle it was. It came out exactly how it should have done. It was a little bit stringy, but I took a lighter to that and got rid of them. So then I printed the other half and came out exactly how it should. So put the two pieces together and this is what you have. Now, this is it. So the two halves are practically done. So I just need to glue these two together. But before I do that, I just need to get the base plate printed, which I'm actually going to set that up on the printer to do now. So I'll get the motor mounts going and see where things go from there. So after that, I printed off the motor mounts, which didn't actually come out too bad looking at them. So once they were done, I printed the first attempt of the base. So here's it going through the first layer, and here it is almost printed. So was happy with that at first, but then it didn't quite go to plan, as you'll see later on. Not to do with the print, but with the overall design. Now, round the back, I did have a bit of alloy 910 from Toolman, so I was going to use that for the aerial, but let's just go over to the table and see what the progress is so far. Okay, so we're going to start talking over this bit, because I am going to lose track of bits and pieces, and I might end up missing a few bits when narrating over the previous bits. So I've got the base plate printed here, which is the newer one, because I forgot to... Well, I didn't make this one wide enough, and I forgot to add the switch mounting and the power LED, so that's useless. So I've got two of the motors ready here. The other two and the motor controller are actually in this, which was basically something called the fight test dummy, for a private event and a thing that I do where I allow amateur teams to play with and fight with combat Beetleweight robots. So these are going to be coming out, and what I'm going to do is get these mounted. I've already got a couple of motor mounts at the ready here, and I'll probably have just to cut to when all the motors are fitted here, and probably the switch as well. Got the soldering iron at the ready here, so let's cut to that. So been an interesting development, because this is actually the base pretty much almost done, but there's a bit of a situation that I'm in that I can't quite fit, because this is the battery box that I have developed so that I can take the battery out and charge it. But as you can see, I can't fit it in. It can fit in like that way, but the reason I didn't do it this way is because the base plate wasn't wide enough, but I needed to widen it because it didn't quite match the proportions when I scaled it down. Because so what I've done is I printed a new plate, this time out of ABS, which is a lot more sturdier and stronger than PETG. But this time round, I'll be able to have the base plates like, well, I have the base plates so that the battery can go in horizontally that way. So that's me going back to square one, almost. But what I'm going to do is get this slot shifted over to this base plate, and hopefully I'll be able to have the battery box bolted to the base plate. So let's go. Okay, so this is where I'm at now. This was the PETG base, but now here we've got the newer base with the box the other way around. Now that was somewhere, but my dad has a tendency to shove things to one side, and I have absolutely no idea where it's gone on the kitchen table. But also what I've done, I've got it completely wired up. I've got the LiPo, which I am going to be using in this, hooked inside. Hooked to it rather, because it's not inside anything. What am I saying? So I've got a FlySky GR3E receiver hooked up to my GT3B. So unfortunately, there's a bit of an issue. One side works fine, the other side works, but it can only go in reverse. So if I go full forwards, that's going full forwards, and if I go backwards, also, I've just realised I think I may have wired the wires wrong way around, so hang on a minute. Okay, so I've taken care of that problem. So basically what happened, I reversed the polarity of this motor because it was going in the opposite direction to the motor at the back, but that problem has been taken care of. Unfortunately, it's just not going forwards one way, so that's a shame. So what I'm done at the next step, actually before I do mounts together and see how it looks, is I've got these, so basically what I've done is I've printed these TPU hubs, so it's basically so it slots onto the motor without an additional hub, and there's Lego tyres on it, so there's the remaining 3. Now the rest of the tyres are actually in this bag. So what I need to do is, hopefully they're not already on the hub, so I'm going to take 3 more tyres out, just unplug the battery because I don't need that in there at the moment. So got the tyres, got the hubs. So what I'm going to do is do a finger snap, and then we'll see what it looks like with them all over. I probably should clarify me tripping on my words a little bit in that last piece, because my dad was calling me because Celebrity Traitors was about to start, and I lost my train of thought in terms of what I was going to say. But the actual base itself is pretty much assembled. The only thing it's really missing is just the tray for the battery compartment, and also you may notice, well, I've also stuck in there a little power LED there to indicate whether it's on or off or not. But I've also not wired that up to the ESC because of it being going only in one direction on one side. Now, this was the battery compartment lid, but the mistake I made was I basically made the same proportions as the actual box, and because the walls are literally right next to the lips of the actual battery slots, as you can see, well, the end's just going just a little bit, but as you can see, it is not quite at the right proportion. So this I'm going to have to abandon and redraw a new one. But nonetheless, I got a thing. But the only downer is that I can't really have it running at the moment. I could, but it just wouldn't look very good. Also, on the 2 structure itself, the wheel holes need a bit of winding, but I'll just have to file that off and go over it with a Dremel. Or maybe just, because you can see the actual motors were a little bit bowed, so I need to put something underneath them to keep them upright, like so. But nonetheless, I just want to put this on and just see how it looks. Probably not going to be the neatest. But there we have it. So this is what we currently have. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just get a couple of bolts on it. I won't put some bolts at the front, but I will show what that looks like and take it into the garage where the lighting will be better. Right, it's actually been a while since I filmed that piece. So this is the ESC that's got a bit doolally. It works perfectly fine on one side, but on the other side it only goes one direction. So this is going to be coming out, and Sam kind of gave me this older version of the Bristol Bot Builders dual motor ESC, which has built-in braking in, so the drive will be a lot better than that one. And also thanks to Sam from Team Overkill for kindly giving this to me. So this is going to be going in that. I'll take the wrapping off, get some new shrink wrap off. So going to be unsoldering the, just double check the motor plus one. So going to be unsoldering the battery terminals and the motor terminals, and we'll just recycle the wiring to save me doing a little bit extra work, and also not so much using more resources like shrink wrap and extra solder. So gonna get this in and do a finger snap. And this is where I'm at. So I've got the new BBB ESC in there, and I did have to adjust the camber, and I have had to put a bit of pillows made from scrap TPU prints to stop the motor tunnels from coming into contact, but that's adjusted it fine. It's also, the camber's a bit more even at the, actually no, it's still, so it's not a neutral camber on either end, but I just want the thing to run, and it's not really going to be doing anything competitive or going to be fighting or racing anything in particular. It was just purely built just for sideshow purposes, but it's done. So just got one thing to do, and then hopefully I can get it back onto the numeral itself. Right, so I'm widening the wheel holes. You can see it's a little bit of a mess. I'm widening it up with this, otherwise it means printing a new 2 altogether. So this is just basically the best and quickest method of just widening the holes. So it's not gonna, oh, this might have been a bad decision actually, because you can see how uneven it looks at the front. Oh no, but I can get that. I'll have to get these bits off looking cleaner, but I'll see how it looks once I've done. So this is where I'm at. These are the tools that I've used basically to widen the holes. As you can see, not exactly the neatest job in the world, but I think hopefully when it's on the base, it will probably do. In fact, I'll just go and take this over to the kitchen table. So brought it back to the kitchen table where I've currently got the madness happening at the moment. You can see there's so much gubbins all over the table, but it's cold and it's winter. I'd rather be in here than out in my shed. I do have the diesel heater, but it's just where I just feel more comfortable. And in fact, I just want to show off the base. So I did have the battery kicking around somewhere. So I've actually got, also another thing I've also added, I've got the lid printing in the shed at the moment, but I just want to quickly find the LiPo. Did I leave it on the kitchen table? Oh yes, I did. This I'm going to bring back in, and I'll try and do it with one hand. Probably not, nearly, hang on a minute. Just, you'll have to excuse me not editing this out while I try and squeeze the LiPo. Alright, so I'm just trying to get that. I think that's near enough. So let's just see how it drives. Just Okay, what? That's probably because of how much is bulging at the bottom. I haven't really tucked it in very well, but it did drive. I did test it off camera. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to drive with the battery cover off, so I'll just get this onto the... I'll just get the whole thing together and just see where it goes from there. Nope, wait, I have got it driving. Oh, that's much better. So, got the battery pack cover done. Now, that was take 2, this was take 1. And let me tell you, it was a very, very tight fit. I did think about trimming it, but it wouldn't have been that neat of a job. So I decided to, since it was not that, it didn't use as much material as compared to most of the print, but I've got the lid on. Did have to adjust it because the proportions and the model, because it was planned to be a lot bigger than it should have been. SketchUp and the overall model proportions were being a bit funny, but nonetheless the battery is secured. So if I do turn it on, do you want to see how much the power light glows? Okay, so the power light isn't going to glow as much as I thought it would, but it drives. If I get the transmitter, I've already got that turned on, but... Okay, so that I need to take care of. Alright, so this is practically about as good as an area I can test it. And I'll try the GT3B is a little bit awkward to hold with one hand. So I'll try and film this while driving at the same time, but here we go. Not the best driving in the world, but it does good. And there you have it. So there you have it. That is how I built my replica of the BBC Two car. Now, I'm not 100% happy with the drive on it, because I don't know if you saw, it wasn't going like fully in a straight line. It was going off to the left slightly, probably because of the spacing of the motors, probably because of how pressed up they are against each other. It's a bit tight in there, and the motor's ends are kind of touching each other, which is probably having an effect on the drive system. So I might have to redo the base and look into probably N30s, which should do the job just fine for what this is, because these motors I think are a little bit too long for the size I ended up having to make this. I was planning on making it a little bit bigger, but because obviously with the layer shifting, I decided not to risk it and reduce it in size to make sure that I actually got anything. But overall, in terms of how it looks, really happy. Now, there is one little detail I'm sure that you may notice, and that's the knob on the antenna at the top and on the bottom. Now, what I was trying to do, I was trying to print some, but because of the overall design, it wasn't coming out. I was hoping to get some black beads, but I just haven't been able to get any done in time, and I wasn't able to find any in time for this video to go out, because this is long overdue and I wanted to get this video up as soon as I can. But there you have it. Maybe I'll make another video improving the drive on this at some point, but I've got quite a load of other videos to show off. Stuff that will probably keep me occupied until January, which is rare because I don't often get to upload that time of the month. But that's it for this video. So far, happy with this, but I will make it better at some point. Thank you so much for watching, and until next week's video, take care of yourselves. Actually, there was one other thing I forgot to mention until I turn around. So the GT3B is actually quite big and bulky. It uses 8 AA's, and it's quite a job having to fit this in my toolbox when I've already got the GT5, which is much nicer to hold. So I'm thinking of switching this over to this, which is a turbo racing 4-channel transmitter. I believe this is the P32. This is what it is. So it's smaller. It feels a little bit weird to hold, given because I first loved this transmitter, but then when I moved on to the GT3B and the GT5, which I now use for my racing cars, this feels a little bit strange to hold, given how small and compact it is. And I've taken this out of, I took the receivers used from this out of all of my leisure cars, because I've switched over to this for leisure cars. But maybe while this is quite easy to pack and less bulky than the GT3B, maybe I'll take the receiver out of this and put a receiver for one of those in there. But that's it for this video. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.